Put on your prognostication hat. What will major college sports look like, say, in, 10, 15 years?
NCAA is dead. It's going to be the big schools on top. The rest of the college athletics is going to suffer.
Well, now tuned in to the Dark Times channel.
And so here we go again, back with another one. Welcome back to the Dark Times channel. And we got to talk about college sports today.
USC down the middle, off the hands of a receiver, and Reed with the interception.
I've been hurt, dog. I was hurt before this game.
I remember, you were hurt all week in practice.
Yeah. I'm hurt, dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right. Hell no. Joaquin said dominate, and we not doing it. I put my heart in this dog. Let's go, man.
Because the NCAA just got smacked around in the House versus the NCAA lawsuit. And folks and people like Paul Feinbaum are panicking. The sky is falling. But we got to talk about why.
In terms of a huge $2.8 billion antitrust settlement that will change the way college sports have been run for more than 100 years. Here's the snapshot. Schools can now pay players directly, which is directly opposite the foundation of amateurism that college sports was built on, and that foundation has now crumbled.
And so here's what went down and why people like Paul Feinbaum and the Nick Sabans are out here panicking. The NCAA and its power conferences just agreed to a $2.8 billion settlement in the House versus the NCAA lawsuit. And the lawsuit basically challenges the NCAA long-standing rule that the athletes cannot be paid directly by the schools.
Nick Saban making as much money as he did in that sport and then coming out against the idea of the sport can't be about money the moment I lose control of the money.
All the things that I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exist in college athletics. So it's always was about developing players. It was always about helping people be more successful in life. My wife even said to me, we'd have all the recruits over on Sunday with their parents for breakfast, and she would always meet with the mothers and talk about how she was going to help and impact their sons and how they would be well taken care of. And she came to me, like right before I retired and said, why are we doing this? And I said, what do you mean? She said, all they care about is how much you're going to pay them.
The idea of just greed, resplendent, unwavering greed, not just in sports, but everywhere on the globe has been a rotting contaminant. But when it gets to the kids is when it's a problem. When it gets to college kids want to be paid for it, then all of a sudden Nick Saban is next to Ted Cruz.
Oh, so many things. First of all, he was acting his ass off with his voice breaking there, like, oh, the kids, and oh. So that made me laugh. But then I looked at Ted Cruz gazing at him lovingly, and I just thought, how big is Ted Cruz's boner right now? Like, let's not play these black kids. Let's keep them broke for life or whatever. And then the coup de grace, like, that's why I like college football more than NFL. Because I couldn't tell them naysayers what to do. They were getting paid. These ones over here, I can tell them everything. I was like, come on, man. That whole thing was just hilarity. Midway through it, I tried to imagine if this were like 1866, and this is like a former plantation owner. Like,
we should have put him in a powdered wig.
No.
Nick Saban should have been wearing a powdered wig.
The Colonel Sanders suit. He should have been dressed like Don Johnson and Django, talking about like, I can't tell them what to do now. All they care about is getting paid. No, Sherlock, you got paid for 50 years.
Well, also.
And so now we got people out here like Paul Feinbaum and the Nick Sabans out here losing it because it flips the entire narrative upside down. We're talking about decades of telling college athletes that they should be grateful for a scholarship while these coaches are raking in $10 million and TV deals are going for billions. Now they're getting a real cut. Now they're getting a real piece of the pie. And that terrifies a lot of these power brokers out here. That good old boy system looks like it's coming to an end.
Paul, when you first heard this ruling, you first heard this story, and it was set in stone and made news. What was your initial thought?
NCAA is dead. It may still be in existence. We're still having tournaments such as the Women's World Series and the men's baseball. But the NCAA, as we know it, is gone. They literally have no jurisdiction whatsoever other than to be tournament directors. And this was supposed to level the playing field. Everybody pays the same into the kitty and then divvies it up. But it will do anything but. the big will get bigger, and the small schools will simply slip away.
And so even if that is true, even if Paul Feinbaum was telling the truth, which he's not, at least I don't think so in my opinion, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt, even if he was telling the truth, that the big schools are going to be on top. Well, the $1 million question after that would be, how would that be any different than how it's structured now and how it's been structured? Going all the way back to 2000, let's look at the past college football champions. All major schools: Oklahoma, Miami, Ohio State, LSU, USC, Texas, Florida, LSU, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. It's going to be business as usual if that is the case. But Paul Feinbaum and the rest of them, they know it's not about that. It's about control. They don't want the players to have any kind of partnership. They want to maintain business as usual. And that's what it's really about. And the sad part about it is the money was always there. It's just been hoarded by the ADs, the conferences, and some of those media execs. But now it's going to the kids that go out there every Saturday and risk their bodies for entertainment.
Jefferson, are you injured or are you hurt?
What's that mean?
Well, if you're hurt, you can still play. If you're injured, you can't.
I think I'm just hurt.
That's good. And get up.
You're talking about athletes that bring in millions of dollars. And so it's about time, in my opinion at least, that these athletes start getting paid. And it goes beyond just getting a dorm room, a meal plan, and a so-called education, because if you want to keep it real, you want to keep it a buck, this education that the majority of them are so-called getting, and not all of them, but I would say the overwhelming majority, probably about 90%, they're not really getting an education. They're not getting the academic college experience.
I was like, you're in class? He goes, yeah, it's Stacey Augmon in a class. And I was like, what was that like? He goes, he came one time. He sat with his feet up on another desk. And was just like lounging, and he goes, and we never saw him again. That was Coach Tark. You know, he would go to the professors and be like, this kid's passable.
Yeah, do the right thing.
Yeah.
Do the right thing or you're fired.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that the NCAA's whole model of this amateurism just got exposed. And they didn't settle this lawsuit because they wanted to. They settled because they were going to lose in court. And it wasn't going to be close, because the NCAA has been practicing years and decades of unfair practices when it comes to the business of sports and amateurism. And they've been getting away with it. And that's why the Paul Feinbaums and the people within his circle are panicking. The gate's open now. The plantation just got opened up, and that old mindset is dying out. And so don't let the old media and some of those old school coaches gaslight you into thinking that this is a bad thing. This settlement is not the end of college sports. It's the beginning of a fair era where players finally get what they're worth. But that's my take on it anyways. Make sure you guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And make sure you guys go ahead and try to keep that conversation going on down below. And if you haven't had a chance, make sure you go ahead and check out some of that They Fear the Future merch at the shop. Definitely go ahead and support the channel by getting some of that. And if it's not for you, maybe there's somebody else that you might have in mind. But definitely go ahead and show some love and support. And as usual, peace and chaos.